Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. All righty. Thank you much. Agenda item 11E, consideration and adoption of resolution number 2022-60, ordinance number 2022-34. Resolution of the Flagstaff City Council declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the City Clerk and entitled Vehicle Noise Code Amendments, and an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff amending the Flagstaff City Code, Title 6, Police Regulations, Chapter 8, Noise Control by adopting by reference that certain document entitled Vehicle Noise Code Amendments, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date.
Good evening. I'm Deputy Chief Lasawicki. This is a first reading of an ordinance, nuisance vehicle noise ordinance that we've heard discussed several times already. So at this point, I'm here with Flagstaff Police Department's legal advisor and also the author of this ordinance, Mary Ann Sullivan, to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Council, questions at this time? Or comments? If not, motions?
Yeah, I'll take comments too.
Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Chief. Question for you. We received a decent amount of public comment via email on this topic and concern. Just want to recognize those public commenters and appreciate them for engaging. But my question specifically is it possible for us to move forward with such an effort if, while also requiring that it only be utilized as a on-the-spot tool rather than one that we dispatch and add to a queue?
Yes, I think we could do it both ways. I think that the challenge in that is making sure that an officer is at the right place at the right time to be able to capture the data necessary to enforce this rule, this law.
So, Mayor and Council, you know where I'm at with this topic and how I struggle with it. I don't think that this is a public safety issue, but more of a behavioral type of thing that we're trying to regulate, and I have a lot of concern with that, adding that to our understaffed police department. But, Mayor, my comment is I could get on board and be supportive of this if we decouple it from the dispatching approach to addressing this topic. Mayor, to your comments from last week, if an officer's there and this is a tool for them to utilize, great. But if it's something that we're going to be sending officers to respond to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour after the fact, I feel very opposed to that approach. So I'm glad to hear that we can decouple it, and I'd be interested in doing that if council supports that idea. Thank you.
Mary Ann, could you speak to that, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Shimoni, thank you. Unfortunately, I don't think that we could legally do what Councilmember Shimoni is suggesting. If the ordinance is in place, like any law or any potential violation of the law, if somebody calls to report that, then the police department will respond. I don't think that we can build into the ordinance police officers won't call or won't respond if called. Otherwise, I don't know that there would be a particular reason to have the ordinance in that case.
I'm not sure I understood the question, and I guess we respond to all calls for service, even if somebody's calling to report somebody was speeding the day before. So we try and follow up on those as best we can, and we would do the same thing with this ordinance.
Does that help clarify?
Okay, thank you for that added clarification. That helps. And so, Council, I don't support us moving forward with this. I want us to be very intentional about how we're promoting public safety through the efforts of PD. This is, rather than calls related to a loud muffler, I think this is not the best use of our time and our limited resources. And in talking to officers over the past week, there's a lot of turnover at our police department, and I think that we have bigger issues than adding this to than the issues that this would add to. And if the concern, Mayor and Council, is that we're going to get emails in our inbox, I say bring on the emails. That doesn't bother me. I think that our police officer, well-being and time is more valuable than to address these calls. So I'll be voting no if there is a motion, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. And I will just state I've been thinking a lot through this, and the dollars it will cost, the time it will cost us and our police force when we have larger issues to really deal with in our city. This is, to me, not a criminal issue, and we should focus our police forces on criminal issues, especially when we're so understaffed. So I will also not be voting in favor of this ordinance this evening. But with that, I am happy to entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councilmember Salas chimed in with a C in the chat.
Thank you. Councilmember Salas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the well-articulated thoughts shared by Councilmember Shimoni tonight and at the previous meeting when we had this discussion. To me, it's also about prioritization of resource allocation. And I fully agree with the thoughts of Mayor as well and Councilmember Shimoni. And I will vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. Councilmember McCarthy.
Well, just a point of clarification. My understanding is this is not a criminal violation. This would be a civil. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilmember McCarthy, the proposed ordinance makes this a civil violation, so not a criminal violation. Consistent with our other discussions on this, it requires a warning for a first offense, and so then a fine wouldn't come into play until a second offense.
All right. So I am going to support this. There's nothing in here that tells our policemen that they have to go out and, maybe they will respond, maybe they won't. There's nothing in this ordinance that says that a policeman has to go every time somebody makes a complaint. At least that's the way I understand it. I would assume that the police department would use their own discretion. Let's be honest. I've actually gone out with my sound meter to try to find some noisy vehicles. And the truth of the matter is, they're hard to find. But they do occur from time to time, and when they do occur, they're outrageous. And they're really bugging a lot of people that live in the neighborhoods just north and west of here. So out of respect for those people, I think we should at least put this on the books. I've talked to the chief of police about it. He will use his discretion. His department will use his discretion on how to enforce it. They're not going to go out and waste massive use of police time on this. Obviously not. The police department uses their discretion on what to respond to, how timely to respond to it, and they will use common sense. So I'm not scared about it at all. Has anyone made a motion?
You are welcome to do so.
All right, so.
Councilmember Shimoni does have a comment before you.
All right,
proceed.
go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember McCarthy, I appreciate your comments. I just wanted to say that they will respond, and they do respond to every call. They don't use discretion in terms of what they respond to. They will put them into different categories, as we learned about earlier today. But they will respond to everything on the queue. And you better believe if residents are making calls about sound, they're going to respond to those calls. And it will be after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Salas, I see you have your hand up in the chat. I don't know if that's a relic or you're wanting to chime in again.
Oh, it's a relic.
No problem. Councilmember McCarthy?
Well, I'll just point out again, there's nothing in this ordinance that requires the police to go out. Their current policy is to respond to every call. If that becomes impractical, they will change that policy. Anyway, so I move that we read Resolution 2022-60 by title only.
A motion by Councilmember McCarthy. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Aslan. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a point of clarification, maybe. I mean, what currently happens if someone calls about a noise violation? Do the police not respond right now?
We do respond.
So in my understanding of this, this is inputting an actual remedy to a situation that has not had one. I don't think it's necessarily saving time or creating a new measurement of having to respond. My understanding is that it's simply adding a measure of weight to the actual response. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Nay.
That motion carries 4-3. City Clerk.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled Vehicle Noise Code Amendments.
Councilmember McCarthy, would you like to follow up with the additional ordinance read?
Just for clarification, I'd like to know who the yes votes for myself, Mr. Aslan, and
Councilmember House and Vice Mayor Sweet, and the nays were myself, Councilmember Salas, and Councilmember Shimoni.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the time that took. I'd move to read ordinance 2022-34 by title only for the first time.
A motion by Councilmember McCarthy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember House. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay? That motion carries with the same 4-3 vote. City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff amending the Flagstaff City Code Title VI Police Regulations, Chapter 8 Noise Control by adopting by reference that certain document entitled Vehicle Noise Code Amendments, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date.
All right.